So I welcome you again to Zindi Umoja Arc for this 2020, this 2020. And this is just a starter notebook to get you started. So if you are finding it difficult to join the hackathon or to make your first submission, this notebook will be a first start and a great start for you. So we have about 4 CSV files here, the sample submission. So if I go to the platform, I can see that in the data, though I don't have access to the data that you'll be given will be what you will see 4 of them in the zip file. Then when the code is being shared by 10 a.m. this morning, then you can have access to all this data. So we have the sample submission, we have the test, we have the train, the variable definition. So for you to get started, you need to, first of all, start your Jupyter notebook or Jupyter Lab, or if you're using Colab, whichever platform you're using, okay. Then you import all necessary libraries. For now, since this is a book, I'm using NumPy. Then I'm importing date time because I've the data and I've seen that we have some couple of dates in the data. I'm using Seaborn, I'm using Matplotlib, then cross-validate on my data set. So I'm using sklearn trade test splits for that. So once we import the libraries, we can read the data into Python environment by using pandas. So here I'm reading my train.csv and I'm storing it as a variable train. Same thing goes for test and variable definition. So first thing you do simple EDA, you want to do exploratory data analysis. You want to be familiar with the kind of data you have been given to. You want to know what is inside the data. So that's the first stage that you need to do. So this is me trying to do train.add. With train.add, I can see the first 5 rows of the data set. So as you can see, it means that from this data set, I have the ID then I have the policy start date, I have the policy end date, I have the gender of the customers in male and female. So all these listed features are all in the data, and this is for the training data. So by now, since I'm doing EDA, I'm aware that in my data, I have date features, I have categorical features, I also have numerical features. With these, I can know the kind of libraries I need to add more to this. And I can know the kind of analysis I need to do on the data set. So that will guide me through how to go about the computation. Then the most important part is, what is the computation about? If you look at this target variable, you see that the target word is in binary. I will still get to that. So it means that we are doing a classification model. I mean, we will be building a classification model, right? So that goes for that. So with this, I've done a simple EDA. I've familiarized myself with the data. Then I cross-check set to see if the features in train is also present in what? In the test data set. And to my understanding of this, I could see that for the training data set, the target variable is what? Is present for the training, but for the test data set, we don't have the target variable, which is what you will be predicting with your model, and that's fine. So I check my sample submission. Of course, after building a model, you want to check your sample submission. You want to make a submission on Zindi. So you have to know the kind of format that Zindi requires you to submit. So I check my sample submission with .add, and I can see that I just need to give the customer's ID and my model prediction in this format. Okay, so the first thing I would do if I were to be competing in this competition is to first of all submit the sample submission file. I will submit it to the platform and see if the sample submission file is in line with what Zindi wants me to submit. So upon submitting that to Zindi and I get a particular score, then I know that fine, all my other submission, we have to follow this particular order. Okay, if you look at the variable definition, you'll see that we have the meaning of each of the features here. For instance, the policy start date, it just means that the date policy started. So you have to you have to familiarize yourself with the definition of these features and know what, so that you can know the kind of analysis you can do on each of the features. If you are not familiar with any description, and if you are not still okay with that, you can take the description and Google it to know more about the data. With that, you're already getting conversant with the data. You're already knowing the data. You already know the kind of analysis you do. So you are already shaping your mind in the kind of way you want your model to be built. All right. So next thing, I check the shape of the data set. That is, what's the volume of the data set I'm having. For the train, I have 12,000 records. For the test, I have 5,000 records. Then the sample summation, you can see that summation have the same number of records, which is very, very, very good. It means that I don't have to stress too much to create my sample summation, my summation file rather. Okay. If you have any question, you can use the chat, the Q&A function to, if you understand what I've been saying so far, can you just signify with a thumbs up or something on the chat session so that I can know that I'm not talking to myself, Just want to take a moment to look at the chat session. Okay. Okay. It means we are following. Thank you for that. All right. So if we check the train.info, that with the train.info, some properties of the data set, right? So we can see that out of the 12,000 records, some columns are having missing value. The car category, there are missing values there. For the gender, there are missing values there. Or the data type of each of the features. For instance, the ID is an object, then which is integer. So with this, I know what is happening in the data set. I can do the same thing for the test data set. And with the missing values in the training set, also there are missing values in the test set. So first thing that will come to mind is how do I make provision for this missing value? How do I fill in the missing values? That one is left for you. Those are the part of the tricks that will make the winner stand out today. You want to know the kind of whether you should put the mean, the median, the mode, or you do some exploratory data analysis value to represent the missing value, or do you want to drop it? So since the ratio of categorical variable to numerical variable is high, I will consider combining both train and test for easy preprocessing. What did I mean by that? I have the training set, I have the test set. So if you look at it, the object data type are more than the integer data type. It means that the categorical features are more than the numerical features. So what I will do is I'll combine both train and test together, processing together at once, so that I won't be doing I won't be repeating my code. So with this part, I'm joining the train. What I'm doing here of the IDs of the row number for the train and the test, so that after joining them together, by the time I'm done with split them back the way Zindi has given it to me, I won't have issues. I won't be having wrong record for my train and wrong record for my test. So all my data has been concatenated with train and test. And if you look at all the dates just in one place, it means that all my preprocessing, I quickly do it on this all data. But there are some preprocessing that are, how will I put it now, that are peculiar to the train. You need to propagate it to the test set. So in that instance, we will be working on some preprocessing on the training set, and propagate it to the test set. But if it is a preprocessing that doesn't really matter whether you propagate or not, entire what all data set at once. Okay, so what am I doing here? I'm trying to separate the features into date columns, numerical columns. So for my date columns, I have the policy start date, I have the policy end date, I have the first transaction date. Okay, so for the numerical column, I've put age. If we look at this again, we have numerical column to be age. Also, we have number of policy. But if you look at that number of policy, you'll see that it is more like a categorical feature, not a how many number of policy, how many number have, how many number of policy does this particular transaction have. So it's more like a categorical feature, not a continuous feature. Okay, so I can use the train.describe to some statistical measures of the data, right? So I can see that the mean of age is 42.23 and the is minus 60999. So that should flag something that how can age be negative, right? That is fishy, right? There's something going on in that particular feature. So you need to know how to tackle that. You need to know what is going on there. Like age of that customer cannot be negative. So Zindi giving you a negative age, isn't it? There might be something attached to that negativity, right? The number of policy as well, then the targets. So I won't, but there is the minimum value in the target is 0 and the maximum value is 1. It means that we are dealing with binary. So the same thing for the test set, right? Okay, now I want to check if the data set is balanced. That is, the number of zeros and number of one in the target variable, are they like 50-50, or is the ratio balanced or not? So if you look at this plot, you will see that we have more categorized as 0 than more customers categorized. So first thing that have to come to your mind is that I have to balance this data set. If not, your evaluation might not be how will I put it, might not be read in the right with the right mindset. You might be evaluating with the, because you need to balance this data set. Okay, that might also improve your model, but it might improve your model. But the major reason why we are balancing this is because we don't want our model to be biased on zeros than what? Than 1. All right. Okay, so with this, we are checking the missing values percent in the data set. So I'm using train.isNull. If there's any null value, sum it for me and divide by number of records that I have. You see that the missing values in gender, that is also a 3%. Missing values in car category is 30%. And missing value in local government area and state is 53% plus. That's very high. You might consider doing a lot of exploratory data analysis on that to know how to fill in the missing value, or you drop that, but you never can tell what the model will be learning from those features. Everything depends on how you prepare, how you build your model. So the same thing for the what for that set as well. Okay, I have to move. Now we want to check one way to actually see the contribution of each features to the target feature is to use correlation map. Okay, so with correlation plot, we can see how the features correlate to each other and also how they correlate variable, right? Okay, so if I use this last line, you will see that the age to the target, right? It means that the age does not even correlate with the target feature, and the number of policy does not really correlate with the what with the target feature. Analysis you can do on this feature to make them correlate with what with the target feature, because luckily enough, you're not doing a regression problem. So if you are doing a chart, would have been very, very useful. Model really useful for you, but it will be very, very useful in the pre-processing part of everything, right? So the correlation might not be the best since we have a lot of categorical features, because we have about 11 features and only 3 of them, only 2 of them are numerical. So you might not really want to do a lot of analysis here, but it is still good to check the correlation of those numerical features to the target variable. Okay. Now, I'm checking all my data and I'm looking through again. And now I want to do a categorical plot. I want to check the relationship of each of the categorical features to a particular numerical feature. So since I have 2 numerical features, which are age and partially number of policy, and do a bar plot or an histogram plot against the numerical feature to see, isn't it? Okay, so we have the male. For the gender now, I'm plotting this. This is a gender plot against the number of male and the number of female. Look, you're having entity. What does what does entity mean in gender? I don't understand. Okay, it means you have to go back to that data set and understand that entry actually means. Look at it, joint gender. What do we mean by joint gender? And this guy says no gender. I believe this no gender and nothing, because everybody must have a particular gender. So if it is not stated in the data set, then it means that it is that person did not provide his or her gender as well. Okay, so you have to find a way to regroup these particular features to fit in. These are exploratory data analysis, right? Okay, now we have number of, well, I can see some trends here. I can see that the highest here is 7 and the lowest here is 10. So I can regroup and see how my model perform on that. The car category as at we can see that we have a trend here as well, though the trend is not readily available to you like that, but you have to dig further to know what's going on here. And for the subject car color, you will see that what we are having here is we have a lot of categories in this subject car color. So you might consider just change color, because if you want to encode number of features into categorical features, you might end up having a sparse matrix. Well, it might be favorable to the model, and sometimes it might not be favorable. So I would just encourage, maybe you should just encode these numbers, then train a model on that before you redo it again. We have a lot of local area in the data set. Of course, you should expect that we have about 600 and something local government in Nigeria. Okay, so how do you want to handle these particular features? Do you want to group them based on the states at which they are, or just do something around it? So we have the same thing for states. And if you check product name as well, you see a clear trend here that we have MUUVE as the highest and the lowest. So I can do some regrouping here. Okay, the same thing for gender, number of policy, right? Okay, so okay, this one you can leave it since number of policy plotting the same feature against itself. All right, so let's quickly move down to how we actually did some pre-processing to this data, our EDA, and we've seen a lot of trends in that part. So it's time to do some action to the data set, do some cleaning, and build our base model. Okay, I'll be filling the missing value. For me, I've chosen 9999 to fill all the missing values in the data set, right? So the missing values with a particular with a particular value first and build a base model with that. Every part of the data set that is having none is now having 999 missing values with 999. Then this number is not there is nothing special about this number. You can choose any number, you can choose anything to fill your missing value. Just know that anyone you be should not be in the original data set so that you don't have conflict, right? Okay. So if I check the missing value percentage again, you see that everything now is complete. We don't have any missing value in the data set anymore. Then I can also look at my date features. What kind of preprocessing can I do to my date feature? First, I'm changing it to pandas data frame. Okay, so if I check the data type now, I can features are now date time 64. So what can I do to that? I can extract the year of the date. For this case, I'll be having I can extract the day of the policy start date. I can extract the month. I can extract what quarter of the year was the contract sealed. We do a lot of stuff with that date, but I've chosen to do just 4 stuff. So I've extract 4 features from that date column. Then we are dropping the date column. Since we've extracted what we need from that, we can drop the feature, right? So if I look at see that I don't have the policy start date anymore. I don't have the end date anymore. What I'm having now is I'm having policy start date quarter, policy start day year, policy start day, and the likes of it like that. Okay. So for the gender, I stated earlier, we have male, female entity, and the likes of it. Just find a way to regroup this entry. So changing the male to M, female to F in the gender, like entity goes to order, joint gender order, 9999 order, and the likes of it. So if I check the unique values in the data set now, I mean, for the gender column, what I'm having now is male, female, and order, right? Do I still have time? Okay, I still have like 10 minutes. Okay, now, when creating the base model, we want to create a base model. First thing, we check our target variable back to integer. Our data set, it changes it to float. So we want to change it back to integer. Then we want ID ID features. Different across the okay. After that, I want to split my data back to my training and test. So we kept in the first place the number of train and the number of tests. I can split my data set back, train and test, then do some what's it called, train test split. In this case, I'm doing 67% to 33%. So I'll be using 60 train for evaluation. Okay. So if I check number of, if I check the columns in my test, all these features present. All right. And my categorical features are these. Now, since we have a lot of features in the data set, that comes to mind is cat boost, because it is built based on is an algorithm that is built considering a lot of categories. It can take care of a lot of categorical data. So in this data set again, we have just about 2 numerical features. So I'll prefer to use a cat boost classifier first and see how the model is. Cat boost classifier, you can specify the categorical features. What that does for you is that you don't need to categorical features into like using one-not encoding, min-max encoding, and the other type of encoding. Okay, so we fit the model on the train, and we do some evaluation, and if you check the class 0, the precision is about 90%. For class 1, the precision is about 73%. The recall is almost 1, and the F1 score. Again, you have to go back to the platform and check what is using to score you. So for evaluation, Zindi is using F1 score. So, and precision is also mentioned here. So my concentration will be on F1 score and the precision, right? So if I'm doing any evaluation on any model I'm doing, my eyes will be on precision and the F1 score, because that's what my submission will be marked against. Okay. Now, after you've done your evaluation on the splitter, you want to retrain the model on the entire data set so that the model can learn more data. Why you split it in the first place is for you to be able to do evaluation. Now you've done evaluation and you see that, okay, fine, this model is performing. Let me retrain the model on the entire data set so that I can then make on the test set. Okay, now we've trained the model on the entire data set. What is to predict on the test set and make our first submission, right? So the first thing I'm checking is I'm checking if the test ID is equals to the sample submission. True. So with that, it means that I can use my sample submission file, first submission file, to create my first submission file. So we are making the prediction on the test set here, and we can see that there are more zeros than 1. Balance the data set, right? So those are the things you need to do when you start coding at your end. Okay. So now I'm checking the sample submission.add, and I'm making a copy of that here. I call the copy submission file. Then I'm replacing the target of that submission file with my prediction. My prediction is from the model, right? Okay. Now that I have my sample, I have my submission file ready to Zindi. So I'm writing it into my sub file to CSV, and I'm naming that base model prediction file.csv. To include this, it is very because in the sample submission, you see that the index is not needed. So try to remove the index with just index equals false. Okay, so once I run that particular cell, I should have a base model pred file here. So I'm going to just quickly run this fast so that we can see how that will be generated. So I'm running the notebook now. Okay. For some parts. All right. So it's running. Okay, let's wait for it to get here and see. Okay, the charts are coming up. Okay. Okay. So we'll see how to make our first submission. Still have like 5 minutes. Okay. Let me check if the charts are done. Okay, the charts are still coming up. Okay. Okay, so we are good. We are good to go. Okay, so we can add this, right? Okay. All right. So I'm running the model now. You can see how it's learning from 0.66 loss, and the loss is reducing to 22, and Okay, that's finished training. I want to do some evaluation. Okay. All right. So that to fit on the entire data set. Let me quickly check my chat session to see what's going on there. Okay. All right. No questions here. Using this code as you can use it. It will be available to you on the platform, so you can download it. But if you have, you can also build your own from scratch, or you just build on this one. Okay. So I'm running this now. That comes out to be true, and I want to make my first submission file. Okay. Now, once I generate this, watch this. I don't have any submission file here, but once I run this, it should generate this particular file here. So this is what I'll be submitting. You can see it. I have my prediction and ID there. So I can go back to Zindi platform. Of course, I've not joined the competition now. I'll be able to make. Okay, so do we have any question? So how you go about the submission is you join the hackathon, the hackathon code, download this, run your model, generate a submission file, then try to make submission. Once you make submission, you see the score immediately, then you appear on the leaderboard. Once you appear on the leaderboard, you can then go back to your model, retrain, do some other stuff you want to do on it, and try to improve and increase your score on the leaderboard. Okay, so I don't want to join the hackathon now because if I make submission, I will appear on the leaderboard. Okay, all right. So do we have any question?